Today I wanted to do a quick little tutorial on how to get creamy skin tones in Lightroom. And this picture, this is straight out of camera on this picture. And some of the things that I do is I check. So if you look on the, if you put the cursor on the skin tone of the different members of the family, you can see up here in the histogram what the RGB is. Now the RGB should always be red highest, green, and then blue. And there should be always at least 2% difference in each of these, or else the pictures will look gray. So this picture is already pretty warm, but I will go ahead and get a check on what the white balance should be on this. So you just find a neutral area and you click on it and it will automatically adjust your white balance for you. Then the next thing I will do is I will bump the exposure up just a little bit. And you have to be careful, especially when you've got some varying skin tones, that you don't blow anybody out. And so I'm going to go with kind of where I want the exposure to be, and then I'll adjust from there. So I almost always pull down my contrast a little bit, and then my highlights, especially with the white that they're wearing and some fairer skin, I will pull my highlights way down. And then shadows, I will bump up just a little bit to just kind of give us better skin tone in this image. Now you can go crazy with this and it looks weird, but if you just bump it up just a little bit, it adds a little light to the skin, but still keeps the depth in the image. And then I'll play around with the whites. And if you take the whites all the way off, it kind of messes with the coloring on this. But I like to take the whites down a little bit, especially when I have some highlights in the skin that I don't love. And then I will bring some of the black back. When you take the contrast down, you lose some of your blacks. So I'll bring some of the black back up. And then another little tip that I like to do is to lower my clarity. Now, obviously, again, you can go crazy with this, but you can see how a little lower clarity gives you, takes out some of the fine lines in the skin and things like that that look, it's an easy way of getting some of that taken care of. Next, I go to my HSL, and if it doesn't look like this, you may have the color option selected. So just switch over to HSL for the hue, saturation, and luminance. And when I'm in the luminance area, I will bump up my reds a little. You just kind of got to play around with this. I bump my reds up a little. My oranges up a little. This is already pretty warm, so I may not do a ton with the orange. Then yellow, I will bump up until I kind of like how it looks. And then just for my images, I like my greens to be just a little desaturated, a little different hue because it matches my style. And blue, especially because they're wearing blue, I will bump up a little. And this you just kind of play around with. And then I go into saturation and see what, if anything. So I think I'm going to just leave saturation on the red. And then the orange, so you can take that orange out and it's scary, but you can kind of play around with it, especially because I was feeling like the skin was a little bit orange anyway, so I'm going to lower it just a little. And then yellow doesn't do a whole lot, but I feel like it does help a little when we bump it up. And then green, again, especially if there's so much green in the image, I just want to desaturate it just a little so it's not such a dominant part of the picture there. And then these other ones you just kind of play around with and see if it does anything. I don't really feel like it does anything. So that one, I believe the blue, it does add a little blue. So, and I like how that looks. So I'm going to add a little bit there. And let's see if the purple does anything. It doesn't look like it does. And then the final thing that I do here is I click on this detail panel, and I will just bump this up a little bit because that further kind of softens the skin and gives you that creamy, beautiful look without having to go through with with one of your editing brushes. So it's a pretty quick edit, and you can kind of come in, and if you're like, oh, I wish it had a little more whatever, you can play around with your clarity, you can play around with your contrast, and obviously you can play around with any of these styles. If you feel like it's a little too exposed or not enough or whatever, you can play around with getting it right where you like it. So this is my little skin tone secret, and then from there you can add your actions.